Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Now in today's project, we are going to look at how to build a CI/CD pipeline on CircleCI. So we will have our code in GitHub repository, and then we are going to use CircleCI to create our CI/CD pipeline. So we will use NPM to build our application, which is a Node.js application. And then we will use SonarCloud to check and to scan vulnerabilities in our code. Next, we will build a Docker image out of our code using a Docker file. And then we will use Trivy to scan the Docker image after it's been built. After the scan, we will push our Docker image to DockerHub. And then we will deploy our Docker image to Amazon EKS Kubernetes cluster. Okay. Now we will also attach an elastic load balancer to our cluster using Kubernetes services so that we can access it on our web browser. So please stick around for the entire project. If you have any questions concerning this project, leave it in the comment section below. And if you have any idea of what video I should do next, just leave it in the comment section below and I'll be reading them. And like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so let's first check in our code to CircleCI. So on your browser, just Google CircleCI. You can open either link. So when I click this, there's a CircleCI page. Now you can log in with your GitHub account or Bitbucket account. So you can also sign up to create an email. I'll just decide to log in. So click login. I'm not going to log in with my email. I'll click on this and log in with GitHub. Now when you log in, it's either you'll be asked to set up an organization or create one for your project. Okay. I have my GitHub account connected to my account directly because I signed in with my GitHub account. Now when I go to project, you should see all the repositories in your GitHub account populated here. Now there are settings where you can only show a few or some specific repositories here. You don't have to show everything. Now in this project, you're going to use the same complete CI/CD2 code. So click on setup project. You will have some instructions here. It says you can use .circleci/config.yml in my repo, and this is the repository. Okay. And then if you have some specific branch, you set that here. Our current branch is main. Now you see that there's no .circleci/config.yml found on that branch. Now this is because CircleCI is scanning your Git repo. This is our repository. There's no .circleci/config.yml. So I have to do that first. This is the entire contents of our repo. So I'm gonna create .circleci directory, cd into that, and then I'll create the name of the file should be config.yml. config.yml. Add this to our GitHub. Should be uploaded now. To refresh this page. There it is. So go to our repo here. That's gonna close this for now. I'm gonna refresh this. Setup project. So we are on our repo, the selected one, and then if I put main here, you see that it now finds it. Okay, so click setup project. So that is our project setup. Currently, because our config.yaml has no content in there, that's why you're seeing this message. But our GitHub has been checked out and it's connected with CircleCI now. Now at this point, we are going to install the NPM dependencies for our Node.js application. So just go into the CircleCI directory, then we are going to edit the config.yaml. Right, so first is to specify the version 2.1. So the format that it follows is you specify the version, specify your jobs, and then all the jobs will come under this. And then you specify workflows. So the way CircleCI works, all the steps that you define under the jobs, you take their names and put them under the workflows so that it sees it as a stage by stage kind of build. Okay. Since we want to install our dependencies for NPM, our job is going to be install_dependencies. And I'm going to use Docker to do that. Specify your Docker image. I'm going to use CircleCI node image. Now this is going to be the latest one. You can use a different version. Actually, to find this image, you can go to your DockerHub account. This is it. Search for CircleCI. And when you search for CircleCI, you see all the different images of CircleCI available on DockerHub. Now, these are all official verified images that you can use for your CircleCI builds. This one is for Redis. So you see Redis node. This is the one that I'm calling to do my NPM install. You have Postgres. There's so many of them available. So depending on what you want to do, just select the image for you and you can go ahead and do that. All right. Back to our CI. So I'm using the latest image and then the steps. Steps you have checkout, and now you're gonna run a process. And that process name, let's call it install NPM dependencies. The command to do that is npm install. Now, similar to how you break out commands in GitHub Actions, you can put the pipe command here and push the command to the next line, or break them down to smaller pieces if the command is long, right? You can do the same thing here. So this is a short command. I will leave it like that. The next thing is to go down to the workflow and modify this. First, provide a version for the workflow, let's say version 2. Deploy workflows or workflow. Then you specify all the jobs that you've specified out there. The first job is called install_dependencies. I'm gonna copy this, then I'll paste it here. So any job that I create inside the jobs here, I'll call it inside the workflow. Let's save this and push changes to GitHub. I've pushed my changes to GitHub. This is our pipeline script. Let's go to, now you see that it only took 7 seconds, so it's even built before I came here. Okay, so the process has just built. You click on this, you can see more information. And that is our job that we just created to install dependencies, right? If you click on it, you see the process. If you come down here, you will see install npm dependencies. So first it will spin up an environment, prepare some environment variables. Currently we have none, so it took 0 seconds. You do the checkout. You did that already. If you click this, you should see the code for the checkout. And then the main stage here is npm install, and it did it here. Now at this stage, we are going to look at how to perform SonarQube analysis on our code. And for that, since we are using the same repo, I'm just going to create a new branch for a repository. So I'll call this branch CircleCI. Click on this to create CircleCI branch from the main. Okay, the branch is ready. It's already selected the CircleCI branch. If you want to go back to the main branch, you just click on that. All right, since we are now working on the CircleCI branch, you need to first do a git pull. This will make sure that you have the CircleCI branch available on your terminal. That is a new branch right there. So it's up to date. And then you use git checkout to get onto that branch, right? So we are currently switched to the new branch CircleCI. You can clear the screen now. Then of course, you can go to our CircleCI config.yaml. Our next job is gonna be for SonarQube or SonarScan of our code. Because this is the job name for the first one, it has to be in line. The indentation has to be the same. I'm gonna call this SonarCloud _ analysis. And I'm using Docker image for this one as well. The image is gonna be CircleCI. I'm using the node, the latest one that I used for the first build. Steps. Checkout. And then we have a run command. Now for the run command, I'll name it. So before I even go ahead to do the analysis itself, I'll first install SonarScanner. And the command for that, you go to your SonarCloud account. So I'm gonna, on the browser, go to sonarsource.com. All right, try SonarCloud. If you don't have an account, you can create one easily, or you can try one to log in. Now, out of the options here, you can use our GitHub. So let's use GitHub to log in. This is the SonarCloud page, previous job that I built. So first go to the plus sign. So we can create a new organization. We can analyze new project. Let's create a new organization for this. So click that. And I'm going to create one manually. I don't want to use GitHub Actions, so I will not use this. Create one manually. Let's just call it CircleCI CD. And this is going to be the key for that. And I'm going to choose the free plan. This is a test project, so create organization. All right, so organization is created. Now you can see that the key for this organization is CircleCI CD, which was the name that we gave it. In lowercase letters, that's the key. Click on Analyze a new project. And so that's our organization name. Now for display name, let's just call CircleCI CD01. That is our display name, and our project key is going to be that the organization _ the display name. And this is going to be a public project. So next. And this is how often we are going to scan our code. So as soon as there are any changes, we want to scan it again. So pick this one, previous version, and create project. A project is created. You have good options, Trivy CI, Amazon Code Catalyst, but there's none for CircleCI. So let's use other CI tools. Click on that. Our code is Node.js, so you see JS here. So we pick this. And you're going to use a Linux environment. Even though it's a container that we are using, it will have a Linux environment. So this is how you would install SonarScanner for our CI pipeline. And then we need to store this Sonar token. And then this is how we will scan our project. So with this command here, let's go back to the pipeline script. So at the SonarQube or SonarCloud analysis step, I have an image, Node.js image as our base image for for our build and Sonar analysis. And the steps, we have checkout, and then we have to run install Sonar Scanner. So as you can see here, this is installation files or installation commands, and this is actually running the Sonar analysis. All right. So to install, copy this command. I've already labeled this as install Sonar Scanner. So I'll use the pipe symbol and paste the install commands here. Make sure to indent them properly. Okay, so this should do the installation for us. Now, to be sure that our installation actually works, I'm gonna add an ls command that would output the Sonar Scanner home, Sonar underscore scanner underscore home /bin. That is the path for Sonar Scanner, which is right here. So I want to print it. If I get an output, then I know my installation is successful. So let me just add a comment here, just as to check if Sonar Scanner binary is present here. Okay. Now before I even run it, I need to add SonarCloud to our workflow. So I'll add it to the jobs. The name is SonarCloud analysis. Paste it here. Now I want the SonarCloud analysis to run only after the dependencies are installed in the first stage. Okay, so I will use the keyword requires, and this is gonna require this first step. That's how you build stage by stage. So put that there. Now you can save this file, add changes. Changes have been pushed. If you go to our pipeline here, you see that it started running. Click on this. It's installing the dependencies first. That's done. Now it's installing Sonar. So it's successful. Good. Let's go inside it. This is the last stage where it's installed the Sonar. If you click show more, the last command was to list the Sonar Scanner home if it's present, which means the installation and all the commands above it actually worked. Now you can clearly see it here. This is the Sonar Scanner available in that location. So our installation is successful. Now sometimes you may have issues with the installation, so you would want to make sure that unzip is already installed on the machine. You try to also output the location when you do the export, just to be sure that you're on the safe side. All right, install is done. So now we can add our SonarQube run command. Now, instead of creating a whole new run command, I can add another run command, and here I will do the Sonar analysis and then run another command here. But sometimes, especially for Sonar, when you separate the installation from the run commands, by the way, the run command is also here. I mean this one, copy this to run it and just paste it here like this. When you run it like this, sometimes you get an error because you're separating the two steps from each other. So normally when I do Sonar in CircleCI, I prefer to put it together as one stage. Okay, so I'll get rid of this. And then instead of breaking the lines here, just gonna put them all on one line. Okay, so that's the full command, but we have to add an environment variable for Sonar token. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this and I'll add it to this command. But before I do that, let's save it for now. I have to go to CircleCI. This is our build job. So click these three dots, go to project settings, see environment variables, add environment variable, and the name is sonar_token, and the value of it is this token. Copy it, paste it in the value, add environment variables, and it's added. Let's go back to our pipeline. This was a pipeline. Let's go back. So that's the first one. Now that the environment variable has been added, back to our script here. I'm gonna add one more variable. In SonarQube, when you want to add any variable, you use dsonar. This I'll call it dsonar.logging, because $symbol for the environment variable, and environment variable we call it sonar_token. That is the name that we used right there. All right, looks good. So I'm gonna just change the name a little bit. So I'll make it install and run Sonar Scanner analysis all together as one. Okay, save this. Push changes to GitHub. Changes have been pushed. Let's go to our CircleCI and the pipeline should start. There it is. Let's go inside it. To install dependencies, it's now doing the SonarCloud analysis. So you see it's successful. Let's go inside it. Now everything here is fine. It's the stage that we are worried about. Show more. So from our commands up to this point is installing Sonar Scanner. So that ends somewhere here. This is all installation files, installation commands. That ends at this point. Okay. And now we list or show the location where we exported the path for Sonar. And that shows Sonar is available right here. And then we start doing a Sonar analysis. And that is where you have all these commands. You see execution success. So everything was a success. All right, so that's how you can use Sonar Scanner to analyze your code using CircleCI. Now, if you want to see the output of our analysis, you can go to branches on the left side here. And this is the branch on our repo that we used. Okay, we are currently on the CircleCI branch. There it is. So select the CircleCI branch. You can see that it passed the analysis. Okay, and so you see all the results on this page here. Okay. Now at this stage, we need to build our Docker image. Now, even though we are on a new branch in the repo, you should still have your Docker file in the home of your repository. There it is. It's a simple Docker file. You're using an Alpine node base image. You're setting the working directory as /app. You copy the package files. And then we run npm install. I'm adding / only production because when you run npm install, it has dev, production, and a whole bunch of stuff that we don't really need in there. So I'm only specifying this. When you also do this, it avoids the container image from being bloated. So it's a good practice. And then we copy everything else, especially the code, into the container. And then we will expose port 3000 where our app listens. And then we can start our application using this command. So it's a very simple Docker file. So let's go to our pipeline script. This is it. this is going to be our step 3. Step 3, I'm going to call it build underscore docker underscore image. Now, before I even forget, I will copy this name. Then in the workflows, I will add it under the jobs. That is our next stage in our build. Okay. I'm using Docker image, Docker version 20.10.7. Steps, setup underscore Docker. Checkout has to be successful. And then we'll run some commands. For the commands we are running, I will call this build Docker image. For the command, I'm going to use docker build -t, and then you have to give it some name. Let's say normally you would have some repo / the app name, okay, colon the tag, right? And then you add the dot symbol. So I need a repo, an app name, and a tag. For the tag, I will just make it latest. So I need a repo and an app name. Let's save this for now. I want to store my application in DockerHub. So I'm going to create a DockerHub repository and then give it some application name. And we'll come back and make some changes to our file. So on our browser, go to DockerHub. Sign into your account. So in your accounts, if you go to repositories right here, you can create repository. All right. So let's hit create repository. And I'll call this CircleCI CD 01. I'll use the same for the description. I'll keep it as public. Create. So our app repository is created. So you can see that when you want to push, you can use docker push. This is the username. This is the repository name, and that is a tag. I've already given the tag latest, so I will need this part. So I'll copy this. And back in our pipeline script, latest is fine. I'll get rid of this and replace it with the information that we have so far. To be more effective, you want to use environment variables since you may want to reuse it multiple times. Okay, so instead of this, I'm going to use an environment variable for it. Save this for now. Let's go back to CircleCI. In here, in our pipeline, click this, go to project settings, environment variables, add environment variable, and that is going to be DockerHub underscore username. Call it that and paste the value for it in here. So I will need this at the end of the day. Add, that is added. So in my code, instead of icon.c, the username, I'll get rid of it and replace it with DockerHub underscore username. When you want to enable building Docker images in CircleCI, then you need to add this specific step to your pipeline. Okay, and that step is called setup underscore remote underscore Docker. You need this inside this Docker build stage. For the name of the stage, that is the same as what you will specify in the workflow. Now I want the build Docker image stage to require the previous stage. So add requires, and the previous stage is SonarCloud analysis. Is that there? Now we can save our file, push changes to GitHub, git add. Our pipeline should start. Here it is. Now, because I added the requires section, that's why this will finish before this runs. and before that runs. Okay, so that was a success. You want to check the processes that ran, click on this, and you should see the spin up of an environment, the container, setting up the remote Docker engine, the checkout, and the Docker build stage. Okay, you click on this, you should see each line in the Docker file being run right here. And you have your Docker image available over there. Now at this stage, we are going to look at how to push the Docker image to DockerHub. Let's go to our pipeline script. This is it. So I'm going to add one more stage. This stage is for push to DockerHub. I'm using Docker image, the same image as the one above. The steps, we set up remote Docker, checkout, then run some commands. Commands, I'll give it a name, push image to DockerHub. You're going to generate the command for that. Let's hold on for now with the command. Before we add the command, we need the password or the token that is required to push image to DockerHub. So go to your DockerHub account. This is it. Click on the user account in your DockerHub account. Go to account settings. Go to personal access tokens. Generate new token. Let's call it CircleCI token. I'll give it read, write, delete, generate. Okay, so this is our token. Copy the token and save it somewhere safe. Now go back to CircleCI. In your pipeline, click on the three dots, go to project settings, environment variables, and you have this environment variables already set. I'm gonna add some more. DockerHub _ password. Paste the token in here, and then click add environment variables. So that is added. Go back to your project. Now let's go back to our pipeline script here. And so we should be able to input our command in there. I'll use a pipe symbol so that I write the commands on the next line. First, I'm going to echo DockerHub _ password. And I'll do Docker login. Username is set as this. Copy and paste it here. Then password. Password will be standard input, which is the password that will be echoed here. This will pick it up. To the next line, now you can do Docker push, the username / the repository, and the latest, which is the tag, right? So I'll just copy this, paste it here. Now let's go down and add it to our workflow. So we have a new workflow, and the name is push DockerHub. Paste it there. And I'm gonna make it depend on the build process. So it requires, this should require the build of the Docker image. Save your file. Now you can commit it to GitHub. So if you go back to our page, the pipeline should automatically start. So there's an error. Let's look at it. Login is successful, but the image does not exist locally with this tag. Okay, so I'll run an additional command. Now name this checking images locally, and the command is docker images. Let's go to our pipeline. So now let's check the output. Now you still have the same error, but when you check the images locally, there are only two images available here. One is Docker and the other one is a Kubernetes false image. So the image that we are trying to push is actually not available in this environment. Okay. So to troubleshoot this problem, what I would do is go to the pipeline script, and instead of separating the push to DockerHub as that, I will add that and build a Docker image together as one stage. Okay, because in this environment, we build the image so it's available right there, and we push it straight from there. All right, just gonna modify a few things. So we build the image, the image check. We run these commands right there. Then I'll get rid of this stage. Okay, now because of that, I need to get rid of this workflow. All right, the push to DockerHub, because we don't need it anymore. And I'm gonna change the name, build Docker image. So I'll make it build and push. Build, push, Docker image. Right, so I'll need this name in my workflow. Push Docker image. Save this. Push changes to GitHub. Let's go to CircleCI. Okay, so you see that now it's a success. So you're able to check out, build the image. This is the image build stage. Check the images locally, and you can see now this has the image that we are looking for, that we are trying to push. It's right there. And then the last stage to push to DockerHub. Now it's able to find it. And so once the login is successful, we can push it. So let's go to our DockerHub account. Go to repositories. This is our repository. Click on it, and you should see the image inside it. And this is our image with the tag latest. Now at this stage, we want to scan the Docker image using Trivy. So the first thing that I would do is go to the pipeline script. I've already built the Docker image. With this step, I check the image locally, and then I push the image to DockerHub. But then I want to add scan to our code. So after this stage, I want to insert a stage here for Trivy scan. So I'll add run, and then the name Trivy scan. The command, I prepare the command here. First, I'm gonna pull the Aqua Trivy latest, and then I will use that container for Trivy to perform a scan, and I will check for severity that is high and critical. And this is our image that we are scanning, and this is actually the image that we got from building our Docker image. Now you can see that I've added this Trivy scan to the Docker build stage. Now this is similar to the problem that we got for the push image. If I separate this into a whole new step, it will get errors. So the Docker image is currently available in this environment. So whatever you want to do with the Docker image, it's best to do it in that stage. Okay, that's why I've added it in here. So the only thing that I would do is to modify the name here. So I'll build, scan, and push the Docker image. So I need to modify the name in the workflow below to be build, scan, push Docker image. Save this and then add changes to GitHub. Okay, now let's go back to our pipeline. This is it. Okay, so that was a success. If you get in there, this is the build step. We build the image. You scan it using Trivy. You see 0 high, 0 critical, so that is good. And then everything else, when you check the image is right here. It's available locally. Then the push follows. Okay. So now we want to create an EKS cluster and deploy Kubernetes manifest with our Docker image to it. So to do that, first, let's create a user. And I'm currently in the IAM console. I'll call this user CI/CD. Next, attach policy. And I'm just going to attach admin access to make things easier. Next, create user. All right, the user is created. It's right here. Let's go in there. Then create access keys. Click this. We use the terminal, so we need a CLI. Select that. Confirm. Next. You can give it a tag if you want. Create access keys. The keys have been created. Click here to download them. It's downloaded over here. So you can click done. So our user is ready. Now on your terminal, make sure that AWS CLI is installed. So if you do AWS version, you should see the version of CLI installed. This is the version. If you want to install this, just Google AWS CLI and you should get the instructions to install that. AWS CLI is installed. So what we are going to do next is just clear the screen and do AWS configure. Or just in the browser, I need the content of this to open it and use it to configure. Now just copy the contents for the access key ID. Do the same for the secret key. And then the default region, I will just use US East 1 as shown there. And the output format is JSON. Keep it as default. Okay. All right, so I've configured the user CI/CD from here on my terminal. Also make sure that kubectl is installed. So if you do kubectl version, you should find that this is also installed. Now you see connection refused because we don't have a Kubernetes cluster yet to use it. That's why. So that is okay. Now we can go ahead to create our cluster. We are going to use the EKS ctl command. The name of our cluster will be iQuant EKS cluster. The region is US East 1. It will have 2 nodes. Then it will have a node group. And the node group, we are calling it iQuant EKS NG. And the node type is going to have T3 medium. The minimum number of nodes is going to be 1 at a time. And the maximum is 2. And this is a managed cluster. You will see the worker nodes, but you will not see the control plane nodes because it's a managed cluster. Press enter. Now this is going to take some time, about 15 minutes. So I will let this start creating whilst I use the other terminal to work on the pipeline script. So at this point, we are going to modify our pipeline script since our Kubernetes cluster is ready. So let's go ahead and add a deployment stage. Now we call this deploy to EKS cluster, Docker. And then for the image, I'm not going to use the Docker image that we used here or Node.js. The image that I'm going to use is CIMG, which is basically a CircleCI image. Now we use a Python version 3.10.2 image for this. Now I will explain why I'm using this particular image later. So let's add a skeleton. So I will have some steps. Set up remote Docker. Check out. So first, because we want to deploy to Kubernetes, we need to install kubectl. So copy and paste the kubectl installation commands. So this is the command that is going to install kubectl. Use a curl to download the files, make it executable, and then you move it to the location where kubectl, whenever we type kubectl apply, let's say -f some file, you can locate it in this location right here. Next, because we need to deploy onto AWS EKS, we need the AWS CLI installed. So that I'll use this command here to install AWS CLI, and we will use pip3 to do the installation, and we will check the version. Now we're using pip to install it because our base image is a Python image. Next, we can now go ahead and update our EKS cluster. So we update the config file using this AWS EKS update config. This is the name of our cluster. And this is the region, which is an environment variable that we've already added to our CircleCI. Now from there, you can do the actual deploy command to Kubernetes. Our codes are inside Kubernetes manifest directory in GitHub. And we are currently working on the CircleCI branch. So the Kubernetes manifests are inside this directory, which is right here. These are the files. Next, you run a command to verify that the deployment is successful. That is going to be a rollout, kubectl rollout status command. It will check the deployment and it will check the service. And since we are not using any specific namespace, this will all be inside the default namespace. Now, why I'm using this particular image? Now, this is because in this image, there has to be certain commands that are already on that Docker image. You should find curl in there. You should be able to use sudo because we need to move the kubectl files in order for this command to work, so that whenever we type kubectl apply ... it's gonna work. So that's the reason why I'm using this particular image. If I use the image Docker like this one, it's very hard, especially when you have sudo commands like this. It's almost impossible unless you patch it before you use it. And I didn't want to do any patch of an image before trying to use it. So that's why I went for this particular image. By the way, the repository that I'm using for this project is attached below. So you can go there for all the commands or all the codes that I'm using. Last thing is to add the stage. Is deployed to EKS cluster. Let's add it to our workflows. This needs to have a dash here. All right. Save this. Push it to GitHub. Changes have been pushed. Let's go to our CircleCI. Started, so let's get inside of it. All right, so you have an error. Okay, so this error is with the Trivy. It's unable to download the Trivy database from GitHub container registry. Now this will happen a lot, especially if you constantly run the job multiple times. Apart from that, the remote Docker engine is set up correctly. Docker image build is successful. Checking image locally is successful. This is it. And then pushing the image to DockerHub is also a success. So it's just the scan that is failing. And as I mentioned earlier, this is because of running it multiple times. Now when that happens, this may give you some errors, which would affect the next stage, which was supposed to be to deploy to Kubernetes. Okay, since this failed. So I'm going to separate this from that, and I will not make it depend on it. Okay, so that even if the scan fails, this deployment should be able to work. All right, so let's go to the pipeline script. And then in our script, I'm going to remove this requirement. Move this and then get rid of the colon here. Let's save these changes and then push the changes. Changes pushed. Let's go back and we should see a new pipeline start. Okay, so the deployment is successful. Let's go in there and you will see all the steps to install the kubectl, AWS CLI. And you can click on the arrow here to check the content. This is the installation of AWS CLI, and you see the version with the Python and Boto 3 or the Boto core. Right. Then this will update the cluster, kubeconfig file, and then the deployment is created here. You have a deployment and a service, both created, and then we verify that everything was successful. Everything successfully rolled out using kubectl rollout status. All right. So if I go to my Kubernetes cluster, do kubectl, get all, this is going to be the content of resources in our cluster. We have two pods running. We have our service right here, okay, which is a load balancer service. We have our deployment, and this is our replica set. Now, when we check the GitHub repo, and our manifest files, this was the deployment file. Okay. You see deployment, and the name is Icon App Deployment, and this is the labels, and we're using the image that we pushed to our DockerHub account, which is our DockerHub username, which is IconC. This was the repository name, and this is the tag. Let's go to DockerHub and see. So this is the image we are pulling. I'm exactly using this is the username, repo name, and then the tag. So entirety of this, and the tag, of course, was latest. So that's the latest. And our containers listeners on port 3000. All right. And that's because if you go to app.js, our application is listening on port 3000. So this has to match that of the container, right? The Docker file also shows we are exposing the container on port 3000. Then the service, we have our iQuant app service, which is exactly this service created here. And it's of type load balancer. And you can see the type here is load balancer and the port is 3000. Okay. So everything is a success. Let's try to access our application on our browser. So because we attach a load balancer as a service, you can literally just use this external IP address, copy it, paste it in your browser. See that it's gonna get slash, and that's because in our application, you go to the app.js, there's no path on slash on the home directory. There's only a path on the slash hello. So you have to add slash hello. And you see, hello world, welcome to iQuant YouTube channel, which is exactly the content of our application right here. All right. Okay. Now let's do our cleanup. So I'll do kubectl delete deployment. Now deployment name is this. Deployment is done. Let's see what's left. So you have the service remaining, so you can delete service. And the service is right here. Delete it. All right. Next, let's clean up our cluster. You would use this command, EKS cuddle delete cluster. Specify the region and the name of the cluster. Press enter, and EKS cuddle will delete every single part of your Kubernetes cluster on Amazon EKS. Now this will also take some time, just like the creation of the cluster, about 12 to 15 minutes. All right. All cluster resources have been deleted successfully. Thanks for joining me on this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. And I'll see you on the next one.